A woman named Yulie puts on a wig and plants a bomb inside the U.S. Embassy building. As soon as she walks outside, the building explodes. Inspector Lee and Carter are driving around Hong Kong at night. A car full of girls stops next to them. Carter tries to invite them out in Chinese, but the girls become frightened. It turns out he said the wrong phrase. Carter is supposed to be on vacation, so he complains to Lee, saying, "When are we going to relax? You promised me a vacation." Suddenly, Lee receives a call from his chief, who tells him about the bombing at the U.S. Embassy. The chief says he will understand if Lee does not want to take the case. Lee agrees to help. Carter looks up the Chinese phrase Lee just said in a phrasebook and realizes it meant, "Did you take another case again? You're ruining my vacation." Lee lies and tells him that their boss invited them to a place for entertainment. They arrive at a nightclub. Lee says he is going to the restroom, but he is actually searching the area for members of the Triad gang. Meanwhile, Carter watches a singer struggling on stage and feels embarrassed for him. As Lee is leaving, he notices Carter singing on stage. Lee pulls him backstage and explains that the place is full of Mafia members and that they must find a man named Ricky Tan. He tells Carter to stay quiet and leave. Discreetly, Carter refuses and jumps back onto the stage, showing off all the Chinese words he knows. The audience is confused. He asks Lee what he just said, and Lee translates it, making fun of him. At that moment, Lee spots Yulie and immediately runs after her. Carter follows. The suspects escape onto the roof of a building. Carter refuses to climb across the top and instead takes an interior ladder. Lee fights several men on the roof, but Yulie eventually pushes him off. He grabs onto a bamboo scaffold and hangs there. Carter climbs up the ladder, but Yulie comes from behind and pushes him as well. Both of them end up hanging from the bamboo before falling to the ground. The next day, Carter tells Lee, "I can't believe you tricked me." Lee apologizes and explains that Americans were killed in the embassy bombing. Later, Lee stops in front of a building. When Carter asks what it is, Lee says, "A massage parlor. They call it Paradise on Earth." Carter eagerly enters and says he will pay for everything himself. The staff open a curtain and present several massage attendants. Carter becomes very excited and chooses a few of them. Afterward, the manager says they will take the two men to a very private room. While Lee and Carter are getting massages, Ricky Tan arrives. Lee warns Carter that Ricky is extremely dangerous and leaves to call for backup. Carter, however, walks straight up to Ricky and says, "So you're Ricky? Let's go, I've been looking for you." He strips off his clothes and boasts, "I'm Lee's muscle. Watch this." He grabs Ricky's laptop, throws it on the floor, and stomps on it dramatically. Lee returns and invites Ricky to speak in his office. Ricky refuses. Lee gives Carter a look, signaling him to act. As Carter approaches Ricky, Ricky's men suddenly open fire. Carter yells at Lee, "Why didn't you tell me he had armed guards?" Lee replies, "I did." Then he points in opposite directions and a huge fight breaks out. Just when they think they have defeated everyone, another group arrives. The gang leaves Lee and Carter completely naked in the street. Back in Lee's room, Carter is furious. He complains that because of Lee, he had to walk through the streets of Hong Kong without clothes. Lee leaves the room and meets an American police officer, who tells him that the embassy case is now under U.S. jurisdiction and asks him not to interfere. Carter realizes he left his documents at the massage parlor and heads back there. Meanwhile, Yulie sneaks into Lee's room and plants another bomb. As Lee is heading to his office, the room explodes. He regains consciousness and immediately runs toward the blast, shouting Carter's name. But Carter is actually wandering through the streets of Hong Kong asking people for directions to the massage parlor. He even changes clothes in a marketplace. Lee believes Carter died in the explosion and is devastated. While walking through the city, Carter spots Ricky Tan. He quickly hires a taxi and follows him. At the same time, Lee receives another call from his chief, who officially orders him to continue working on the case. That evening, Carter arrives at a yacht called the Red Dragon. He gets angry at the taxi driver, thinking he has been tricked. Once aboard, Carter meets a woman and tries to flirt with her, claiming, "My yacht, your yacht." She asks, "Is this really your yacht? What's its name?" Carter lies, but she tells him the yacht is called Red Dragon and that it belongs to her friend. Her friend soon arrives. His name is Steven, a wealthy businessman and the owner of the yacht. Lee is also there. He is interrogating a captive and demanding to know Ricky Tan's location when Carter suddenly appears. Lee is shocked to see him alive. Before they can understand each other, one of Ricky's men arrives and says, "Ricky Tan is waiting for you." Lee and Carter are taken to Ricky's room. Outside, Ricky stages a dramatic scene in which he appears to be scolding Yulie. He then tells Lee, "You're the only person I trust. My own men have been working behind my back." As he pretends to punish one of his men, Yulie enters and shoots Ricky with a pistol. The shooting is actually part of the act. Lee and Carter immediately begin fighting Yulie's men. The American police officer arrives and angrily tells them that Ricky Tan had been a valuable undercover asset and that their personal vendetta ruined the operation. He orders them to stay away from the case completely and demands that Carter be sent back to the United States. Lee takes Carter to the airport. As they get out of the car, Lee tells him that his father was killed because of Ricky Tan. Carter replies, "My father also died while working," and then asks, "Do you at least have money for the tickets?" Suddenly, the two of them decide to fly to Los Angeles together. In Los Angeles, they rent a room in a hotel and begin watching the woman from the yacht and her friend. The friend leaves, and after a while, the same woman who wore the wig arrives carrying a suspicious object. Carter recognizes her and says, "This is the woman who brought the bomb to your room. It could explode any second." The two of them rush into the house, snatch the object from her hands, run onto the roof, and throw themselves down for cover. A moment later, the woman comes upstairs and says, "That is not a bomb. Come back inside before you freeze out here." Back in the house, she introduces herself. Her name is Isabella, and she is a Secret Service agent. She asks Lee and Carter if they would be willing to work with the agency. They agree. Their first mission is to find the person who is printing counterfeit money. Lee and Carter visit one of Carter's acquaintances who works in a Chinese restaurant. The man gets irritated and ends up fighting with Lee. During the fight, Lee asks, "Is that the tiger claw technique?" The mood changes and they begin talking normally. When they explain why they came, they say they are searching for a counterfeiter. They ask to examine some money that was recently brought to the restaurant. After checking it, they discover that the bills are indeed fake. The man then tells them who brought the money. His name is Zing.Lee, and Carter go looking for Zing. A worker at the location sees them and runs away. They chase him, but the pursuit leads them straight into a trap. Yulie is waiting for them with her men. A little later, Isabella appears and knocks Lee unconscious. Lee and Carter wake up tied up in the back of a truck. Carter complains, "That woman sold us out." Lee disagrees and says, "No, she helped us. Yulie would have killed us." They argue for a while, then decide to stop complaining and escape. Lee manages to free himself first, and then he frees Carter. They discover that the statues surrounding them are filled with money. The truck stops and they climb out. Outside, they fight several guards and then escape through an underground tunnel. They eventually push open a hatch and emerge on the surface, only to realize that the truck has brought them all the way to Las Vegas. Nearby stands a building called the Red Dragon. After changing clothes, they enter the casino. While they are enjoying themselves, a woman suddenly grabs Lee by the hand and pulls him away. It turns out to be Isabella. She explains that she was forced to act that way earlier, that she is still undercover and that Lee must trust her. Carter joins them, and Lee says he needs to get inside the area where the counterfeit money is being produced. Carter answers, "I'll draw the attention of every employee. When everyone is looking at me, you make your move." A few moments later, Carter creates a loud scene on purpose. While the staff rush toward him, Lee slips into the money printing area. Several men notice him, and a fight breaks out. In the end, Lee falls into Yulie's trap. Yulie stuffs a small explosive into Lee's mouth and seals it with tape. She locks him in a room where he discovers that Ricky Tan is alive. Isabella is there as well. Lee is shocked and can barely process what he is seeing. Ricky leaves Yulie and Isabella behind and orders them to finish the job. At that moment, Isabella pulls out a pistol and shouts, "Secret Service! Hands up!" A chaotic fight erupts. The two women battle each other while Lee struggles to survive. Yulie kicks Lee out of the room and the detonator she is holding falls down to a lower level. Lee reaches Carter, who is yelling nearby, and gestures for him to remove the tape from his mouth. Meanwhile, Yulie injures Isabella and jumps down to retrieve the detonator. Carter manages to tear the tape off, and Lee spits the explosive out of his mouth. As they continue running, Yulie throws a spear at them. Carter tells Lee, "You keep going. I'll handle this girl myself." He then engages Yulie in an impressive fight. Elsewhere, Ricky Tan murders his partner, Steven. At that exact moment, Lee arrives. He corners Ricky and begins interrogating him. Carter joins them as well. Ricky deliberately describes in detail how he killed Lee's father, trying to provoke him. Lee becomes furious, and when Ricky attempts to escape, Lee delivers a powerful kick that sends him crashing from the top of the building. Just as they think it is over, Yulie appears again holding another explosive device. Lee and Carter dive away from the blast. The next day, Isabella thanks Lee for saving her. Carter watches from outside. After that, the three of them say their goodbyes. As Carter is about to leave, Lee stops him and gives him his father's police badge. Carter then pulls out a thick stack of cash and hands it to Lee. Lee asks, "Where did you get this?" "I don't need it." Carter gets frustrated and says, "Enough already. Stop thinking only like a police officer. There must be something you want in life too." Lee thinks for a moment and admits that ever since he was a child, he dreamed of standing in Madison Square Garden. Carter smiles and says, "So, we're going to New York?" And that is how the movie ends. Honestly, it is an amazing film. Just like Carter says, life cannot be only about work, work, and more work. Sometimes we should take time for ourselves, travel, relax, and enjoy life. Friends, that concludes our movie review. Until next time!